Hey, what's up guys? It's Art Book Addiction here, and we're here with a new artist journey video. So today, we're going to be talking about medium, right? So paint, ink, watercolor, right? Charcoal. What is your medium? The medium choice, right? You will, through your artist journey, hopefully practice many of these mediums and start to figure out what kind that you're gonna be attuned to, what's your favorite, and what this will determine what your artwork is gonna look like, right, naturally. But before we start the video, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, check out my prints in the link below, right? I got some new prints, I'll put it right here, boop, right there. Ooh, check it out, beautiful print. Ooh, all right. So if you guys want to support me and what I do, please consider purchasing a print in the link below. It'll really help out the channel. With all that said, let's get into this, right? So, medium, right? This is it's huge for an artist, right? Because, you know, when we start out, when you start out, you usually start out with like pencil, right? Maybe a pen, right? When you're a little kid, maybe crayon or whatever, right? But the choice in medium that you use will not only determine what you're gonna do, but it will determine the artist that you're gonna explore, right? The artist that you're gonna be inspired by, the artwork you're gonna be inspired by, right? And not to say like you can't be inspired by other mediums, of course you are, but if you're someone who really likes like charcoal drawings, right? You're gonna be looking at a lot of charcoal drawings, right? If you're someone who likes paintings, you're gonna be looking at paintings a lot, right? And these things will, this will affect your artist journey, right? It's in a way, it's a small way to guide your artist journey, right? But it's very important that you try out as many mediums as possible, because your talent could lie within a medium if you and you might not even know it, right? That's why something like education can be very, very impactful to your work, right? There's been many times where I've met someone who they think they like this medium, and they're like, oh, this is my medium, this is the one I choose, right? And then they play with something else, and then they're like, I like this way more, I have a way better natural connection to this medium, and my work is so much better now, right? Or they're like, oh, I really like the medium, but I suck at it, but I gotta practice, and then they practice, and then after they hit a certain threshold, their work comes to life, dude, and like on a whole nother degree, right? Sometimes it can be good to switch up your medium, right? Because it'll switch up your brain and change the way you approach art, right? Something like oil paint is much different than watercolor, right? With oil paint, you start with the darks, right? And then you gradually build up your lights, right? With watercolor, you start with the lights, and then you end on your darks, right? You build up your darkness, getting darker, and then you end on the darkest, right? These two are completely opposite approaches, right? Oil paint is very thick, right? Tactile, like it's like butter, right? Watercolor is water. It's just like, and there's a lack of control of it, right? Oil, you can layer, right? Watercolor, you could layer, but it's a very thin layer. You're not gonna get all that crazy texture, right? So, knowing these things, what are you gonna choose, right? How does that affect your art, right? Some art lends itself to one medium more than another, right? So if you're doing line, right? If you're doing like, oh, I want a black and white drawing, right? You could use ink, right? You could use charcoal, right? But these two things will affect it completely, right? Ink has a completely different finish than charcoal, right? There's some people, right? I have teachers who use mixed media, right? Watercolor, color pencil, pen and ink, right? Marker, right? And then like these things, like, you know, like, oh, which one is gonna like get me the thing that I want? What kind of finish do I like? Do I like it more grainy? Do I like it more thick, right? Do I prefer something more clean? Do I like black and white? Do I like color, right? So these things will have to be explored, okay? It's very, very important that you explore these things, because as an artist, you do not want to grow stagnant, okay? Stagnation is very bad for an artist, okay? And it's not the same as like, oh, I just draw the same thing in the same style all the time, right? But like, it's the it is the fear of doing something different, right? That's what you don't want, right? You're like, sometimes you could switch it up, right? But like some people, they don't switch it up because they're scared, right? So this happens. So on a wider context, right? I've been talking about mostly traditional medium, right? But the one thing that really gets people is digital versus traditional, right? Some people start out with digital, and they will struggle very, very hard to switch their brain to traditional, right? And vice versa. People who work primarily in traditional will have a very hard time with digital, right? Like personally for me, I was someone who recognized the value of digital very early on, right? And so I started my career like in high school working traditionally, mostly traditionally. I used charcoal, oil, ink, right? Watercolor to some degree, but and digital, right? Because I recognized that like I need to learn digital to be able to compete in the modern market. That, you know, later on that would lead to my hand issues and like me switching back to traditional. But that's, you know, that's my journey, right? Not everybody's gonna have that experience, but the ability but at the end of the day, what this gave me was the ability to switch between, right? And so I could do a beautiful digital drawing and I could do a beautiful traditional drawing, right? And the learning of the two, right, it's just that initial hump, right? It's just that initial hill, right? So if you're someone having a problem getting into digital work, right, and like learning how to like make art via a program, I think the best way to think about it is you want to approach it like markers, right? Where you don't apply direct color, right? So like, because like line work, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory, you know. You just what do you call it? Get a hard brush, right? Use pen pressure, right? And then what I've learned is I think 30% flow will give you a pencil-like quality, right? So that's just a tip for you guys if you guys want to learn to start drawing on there, right? If you want like a pencil-like quality to your brush, you can use that, right? You don't need any of you don't need to download any special brushes or anything like that to use it, right? Yeah, you could build up your drawing that way. And then when it comes to color, the way what you want to view it is like I said, like markers, right? Because in markers you put down a tone and then you layer it, right? But another good way of thinking about it is like animation cells, right? So let's say you have your base color, you have the local color, right? Which is like, your skin is so in this lighting condition, right? You want to use daylight, right? Daylight lighting conditions, local color, which is going to be like, my shirt is brown. So it's going to be, what kind of brown do you want? You want to use this brown, right? This is the default color, right? Skin tone is this tone. The hair tone is this color, right? And then you have the local color, and then what you want to do is put a multiply layer. So that's like, it's like adding a cell in front of it, right? A colored animation cell, which will affect the color underneath, right? And then you could use that for the shadows, right, which will create what do you call it, color temperature in your work, right? So that's these are some basic ways to get you to understand the way digital works, right? That's for the traditional people out there. For the digital people going into traditional work, my tip would be, obviously, you start with pencil, but you're gonna have to start thinking differently, right? You can't use one. You can't undo, but like whatever. That's just like you have an eraser. Boom, there you go, right? I would say that when you're approaching from this angle, that when you're building traditionally, it's much different than when you're doing it digitally, right? Instead of looking at it as like cells on top of cells, right? Like a clear cell, it's one thing, and you're gonna want to build up the layers, right? Let's separate out again to multiple layers, right? You want to do your line first, right? Then shadow, right? So normally these two would be separate, right? But because they're one, you want to build one first, and then on top of that, build the second one, and then boom, lights on top of that, right? And then just view it from a non-layer. Like you could view it in a layer way, right? But like just view those different layers as different parts of how your drawing is going to be built out, right? You start with line, shadow, and then lights, right? And then you obviously, and then from there you could render, right? Which is pretty consistent on both sides, depending on what you want to do, right? But like I said, it's very important. Okay, so this is more technical stuff, but let's go back to the conceptual thing. So it's very important to you don't have to know both, right? I'll be honest, you don't need to know both, but it's very important that you're not held back as an artist, right? So like learning Photoshop, right? Whether you want to draw on it or not is very, very big, okay? Because it will allow you to, like if you're like someone who scans your drawings, right? You need to be able to scan it. You need to be able to put it digitally. At the end of the day, we live in a digital age, right? So you're gonna need to be able to take your drawings and then digitize them, right? So that you can upload it, so that people can see it, right? And then like if you let's say like you scan it and then like something looks off, right? And you gotta be able to know like how do I fix it? How do I adjust the colors, right? And that in its own is kind of is easy. It's very basic. You could probably watch some videos to learn how to do it. But yeah, and in the opposite manner, I would say that for digital artists, it's very important to learn traditional, right? Because you need to learn the foundations. You need to learn the sources, right? And like at the end of the day, when it comes to it, whatever you learn traditionally will be sped up by digital, right? Digital, I think the main advantage of it is speed, right? So if you're really, really good traditionally, and then you insert, boom, digital, your work just becomes like lightning fast, right? Just way, way faster, if you know both. But traditionally, you're gonna have to build from the bottom up, right? If you're going from digital to traditional, you're gonna have the skills, but you're gonna need to rewire your brain and then build up those skills, right? But know that those skills are vital, dude. They will make your digital work so much better, right? Once you learn how to do it, because when you do traditional, there's a permanence to your marks, right? There's a you can't if you make the same mark a million times, it will etch into the paper, right? And then it'll ruin the drawing. So there's a permanence to it. Like if you're using ink, there's oh, you can't just undo, right? There's something to that. You know what I mean? And having a physical piece, you get the original, right? You have the ability to sell the original. You have an original. You have something that you can hold, right? Which has its own thing, right? and traditional media has a tactile feel, right? Which is something that you don't get from digital. Digital, it feels synthetic, right? You're just moving like a stylus on a tablet, right? Which is just essentially like, oh, I have a mouse that's like, you know, a pen. You know what I mean? It's not the same as feeling a brush press against a canvas. Not the same as charcoal against paper, right? These tactile feelings, and you get with traditional, there is a level of control that you can't get with digital, because at the end of the day, so like let's say you have like a brush, right? Let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can get something. Here we go. So let's say you have a brush right here, right? Let's say you have a brush, right? And normally in Photoshop, this brush would just be this singular point right here, right? Maybe it has a shape, maybe it's like kind of like a square, right? But with a single brush, you could do way more, right? So like, let's say I want to do like a square shape, right? Boom, square shape, right? But let's say I want to do a line, then I could do boom, line, right? Or let's say I want to do something where I can go from like thin to thick, so I go thin and then thicker, right? You could do the same thing with a stylus, right? But it's different. There's something different about it, right? And then like there are little things like the way you leave a stroke, right? If you leave a stroke, right, it's gonna leave the impression of a stroke, right? With digital, it's more like a not like a line, but like the way it builds up, it's like a translucent like line to it, right? And then it looks more it looks less like a stroke and more like a translucent what do you call it, like ball that's being moved. You know what I mean? Like you know the way it looks, right? But it's more like a slightly like more opaque thing on top of it, or a translucent thing changing like right on top of it. And it looks different. It doesn't look like a marker. It doesn't look like a brush. You know what I mean? And these things will affect your artwork, and it will affect the finish that you want, right? And so digital, I feel like it looks more like clayish. No, I don't know. I wouldn't say clayish. It's something. It's like I said, it's like marker, but like if you're using only round markers, right? You know what I mean? I guess you could use different things, but you could tell when something's digital versus traditional, right? You're not the kind of finish you want will determine what kind of medium you use, right? But if you guys learn anything from this video, it's to try out different mediums, man. Try it out, dude. Try out like if you're using only digital, dude, start trying out traditional. Okay. The thing that you like, and a good segue to do that is the same thing that you would do digital, try it traditionally, right? Let's say like you're really good with character designs, right? And with a more like animation like finish to it, right? Do that in pencil, you know, right? Do that with colored pencil, right? That's the old way, right? It could be an easy way to get you into that, you know, just to ease you into that other medium, right? And then once you work and like I said, dude, once you start, it's gonna be difficult, right? But I think it's worth it to work through it, you know, kind of push through, and it's gonna be, you gotta be a little stubborn about it, because you're gonna be like, you know, get help, find someone who's good at it, right? And maybe they could give you some tips, or like, oh, well, you don't want to think about it like this, you want to think about this, and then like once that moment comes, it'll click in your brain. And then once it clicks, then you'll start appreciating the medium, start appreciating like, oh, well, with this, I could get like a way different finish than I would digitally, right? So Yeah, and then like from there, you could use that as a springboard to like, well, now that I have my line down, right? I want to try adding color to it, right? What can I use? I can use watercolor, right? And then so you explore that realm, right? So this is very important for young artists on their artist journey, right? The mediums will help guide your path, right? They all lead to the same end, right? So it's like, it's like multiple paths laid upon you. Like, oh, do I want to walk the grass path? Do I want to walk the dirt path? Do I want to walk cement, right? It's like, oh, what feels better on my feet? You know what I mean? On the artist journey, right? What do I like the most? Do I like walking on the grass the most? So like, it's just textures, it's just feels, right? Oh, do I like to use the train? Do I like to use the road, right? These are the questions you have to answer on the artist journey, but you shouldn't be afraid of exploring, right? So please get out there, try out different mediums, and I think with that we can end the video here, guys. Please, if you like the video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, leave a comment, tell me how you guys feel about your mediums, right? What's your favorite medium? Have you had difficulties switching mediums, right? Ring that bell for notification, check out my prints in the link below, all that bullshit. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks a lot.